to the continuation of another episode of the most on call podcast on the internet. But not today, not on call this week. So,
I've been sitting here by myself silently for this whole time,
yeah.
just waiting for you to get back from that emergency deal.
um, the voice you're hearing right now, or person that you're seeing talking, depending on how you're tuning in. I'm Joey, and I am joined, as pretty much always, by Chad
Good to be here.
in the sweet pit viper fucking sunglasses hat.
Dude, demand and respect and authority every day.
That's right. That's right. So when we left off, we had already talked about. Oh, by the way, this is the AFC North kind of team preview, summarizing the offseason, kind of setting our expectations for the season to come, which is now in less than 2 weeks. And we started talking about the Ravens. We talked about some of their losses and some of their gains in free agency and trades. And Chad was asking me questions, trying to tear down the pending dynasty that is the Lamar Jackson era Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, and you were stumbling your way through, but I think what you were trying to do, just as you got saved by the bell, as it were, before, is I had asked effectively on a scale of 9 to 10, how how panicked are you about the Ravens' ability to defend the middle of the field with those new linebackers and lack of serial philanderer covering center field?
Not concerned at all. Chuck Clark is going to have them rocking. Wink's going to put everybody in the right positions. And these guys will be able to kind of grow on the fly. And I think they'll be just fine. Last year in week 4, we just signed 2 guys off the street and they played middle linebacker for us all year. At the very least, sufficiently. So I think we'll be okay.
I'd say sufficient is like the nicest level that you can get to
At the
for them.
most, sufficiently.
At, at the most, they were sufficient. And many people would say that they were like clearly the weak link of the defense that was like pretty good.
So last year, to begin the season, neither one of them were on an NFL roster. And now this year, to begin the season, they're both on an NFL roster.
hmm One of them isn't the Ravens. So
That's true.
it's just ironic that you've just got that much turnover. You got a rookie. We talked
Well, he
about
was
it.
on a one
You know,
year deal. I mean,
I'm just saying, you got a rookie. He's highly touted, but he has no offseason. He's going to have played
two
no
rookies.
preseason games. Yeah, but Malik's not going to start right away. Let's
No,
be real here.
but I'm
Come on.
excited about him.
Come on now, Joey. Okay, so you're not panicking about the middle of the defense. Just so you know, every other fan here should be celebrating that because you
Yeah.
can throw all over the middle of this defense. Like I promise you can. Chuck Clark is fine at talking and he's pretty good at tackling, but he's not going to stop your tight end from running up the seam. You heard it here first.
Watch
So
watch Deshaun Elliott cover tight ends, and then we'll talk.
these mental gymnastics are really fun. So why don't you convince me that the Ravens are going to be able to rush the passer without doing all sorts of Chinese checkers this year?
Oh, we'll just talk about one of the top 10 sack leaders in the league since like 2016, Calais Campbell, who the Ravens got for a sack of fucking potatoes from the fire sale that's the Jaguars. Matthew Judon, who is a coveted pass rusher on the
No, he's
franchise
not.
tag.
He's
And
not covered.
the back end of the
Coveted.
Ravens defense is going to give them plenty of time to get to the quarterback. So they're good.
Okay.
They were
Okay.
they are better than they were last year,
That's true.
and last year was just fine. So
That's true. You think you're going to get another 6 sacks out of McPhee in the 7 games that he plays this year?
I think he'll be fresher when he plays this year. So
All right.
maybe.
All right. This is great. I love your Joey. I love your that you are acing this test so hard that I know you're going to convince me just right off the bat that the Ravens have an adequate, if not better, replacement for Hall of Famer, soon to be Hall of Famer, Marshall Yanda at right guard.
Oh no, they certainly don't. I did read today that Tyree Phillips is emerging as a possible replacement and right guard.
No
That's
kidding.
yeah. So
Fourth round pick, right?
that's interesting. Yeah, it's a name that we kind of talked about Yonda on Friday, and then, but that's a name that hadn't come up, and so it will be interesting to say the least. And it's even harder to replace those types of players this year with limited practice. Even like the guys didn't put pads on until like last week, so
Yeah, I think that this is going to be a thing that you hear about all across the NFL, but the teams that have the most consistency across their offensive line are going to have a really big advantage early in the season. In the AFC North, actually, the Ravens, despite the loss of Yanda, could be considered one of the more consistent offensive lines because the other four guys are basically going to be people that started last year.
yeah.
Um, so you lose a Hall of Famer, but you're 4 out of 5 on consistency, which still gives you a plus grade in our division.
Yeah, same coordinator. Like, there's no play calling turnover like in Cleveland or anything like that. Like,
Yeah, that's big. And for the record, you're tentatively optimistic about Tyree Phillips starting. I am full blown excited to see him try to guard Stephon Tuitt or Cameron Hayward. Nothing could make me happier than to see that rookie get his chance. I just can't wait. I'm so excited
the
for you.
offensive line is a unit. There is no one man on an island.
Yes, it is a unit that is as strong as its weakest link, which will be on his back many times.
We'll see.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see.
We'll both be watching. You'll be the one receiving the text about it.
That's okay, because the Ravens will be up by like 3 scores, so it won't matter.
Oh, maybe not in the first quarter. All right, so you're pretty confident.
Yeah, I mean, this is a team that the the football world in general is pretty much in consensus that they're a Super Bowl contender. They're the favorite to win the division, even with Earl Thomas gone. And I think that their questions are not lesser, but at less vital like spots than say the Steelers or
Sure.
the Browns.
Sure. Questions at safety, questions at Hall of Fame positions being lost. I get it.
Questions
Yeah,
at
they're not vital.
quarterback.
And in speaking of non-vital questions, here's a question that many football fans, especially Ravens fans, are probably asking. Can the Ravens finally win a playoff game? Would you consider that vital
We'll
for
see.
this team?
We'll see.
I'd consider it vital. You've got your unanimous MVP. You've got your awesome corners.
Our
You got
unanimous
four awesome
MVP
corners.
who has one full season starting. I'm not worried about Lamar Jackson. The wins will come.
That's the Joey I wanted for this podcast. The one that's making excuses for his unanimous MVP. It's okay.
I don't have to make that wasn't an excuse. I'm just stating facts.
Sure. Me too.
All right.
I was asking questions about facts. Can the Ravens ever win a playoff game?
Well, they'll be back there this year. I don't know
All
if
right.
we could say the same for the Steelers. So
That's probably a fair presumption based on the statistics. The Ravens are heavy favorites to, at the very least, make the playoffs. So I will absorb that joke. And I'm not totally convinced about the offensive line. I think that the tackle situation is it's gonna come down from last year. I think Yanda helped out a lot more than meets the eye, and it might not always show because Lamar Jackson is so elusive. But I think that to the discerning eye, you'll see a dip in offensive line play from last year, and you have to. I mean, you're losing legitimately the best lineman of his generation, a guy that's, barely less good than Alan Faneca, who's the best lineman of his generation. So I mean, this is a seriously talented and awesome player. And I'll be rooting for him to make the Hall of Fame on his first ballot, because some of these guys that, they don't make the skill plays that are so fun, like they don't get the props they deserve. So I'll be rooting for him. I'll be cheering for your boy Yonda. So what are you excited about this year? Try to keep it to a couple minutes or less, Joey.
Heavens, heavens.
Do you want
Where
me
do
to
we
do it since
start?
I'm not a Ravens fan?
Um, I will start. I I will start with one big thing. The one big excitement in Ravens Nation in the offseason is Hollywood Brown. He's healthy. He's been working out on Instagram with this guy called the Foot Doctor, doing all kinds of crazy drills, kind of reminiscent of the shit that Antonio Brown, his cousin, used to post in the off season. Being a
Before he
hard
was a
worker,
lunatic.
making things happen. He's put on some weight, and everybody's excited. Everybody in Baltimore is expecting him to become a true number one receiver, even though he was on paper last year.
Everybody saw him
On
do
the
that
depth
double
chart.
move on Humphrey. He made one
He's
double move on
fast.
Humphrey. So he is officially a number one receiver now, because
Still
over the
fast.
course of 30 practices, he was able to beat Marlon Humphrey one time in a race down the sideline. So he should do that every time when
More
he's
than
not
we
allowed
could
to be
say for
touched.
Juju Smith-Schuster this year.
Oh, that's harsh, dude. Juju's going to be great.
Um,
Juju doesn't run by Marlon Humphrey. He just pushes him down to the ground. And he
or
does that during games, Joey, when they're actually trying.
yeah, he just doesn't do it with the game on the line.
Accurate. But he did do it. He did do it, Joey. And
did.
you have it seared in your memory forever.
He did.
All right, so everybody's excited about Hollywood Brown. What round should he be drafted in fantasy leagues? This is the one time we're going to talk about fantasy until I bring it up again.
Um, 8, 9 at the absolute earliest.
That was a trick question. He should be drafted in the second round by all Ravens fans after Lamar is drafted
In the first round.
Yeah, come on, guys. Jesus. Uh, everybody knows that. Okay, so Hollywood Brown he's your big excitement. I was just gonna say the whole offense. Like, people
Yeah.
that like watching a lot of points, like, it was a while ago now, but I'll just remind everyone that the Ravens went on a binge last year of basically 12 weeks, but about a month of that was them scoring like at will. I believe it was the Rams that they scored 7 straight touchdowns against, which
Yeah.
is like, I think, the same number of touchdowns that Mason Rudolph was responsible for over the course of the whole season that he played. Maybe it was more than Mason, actually. It's possible. So this offense is going to be super exciting. Like, Lamar's back. They've got fun young wide receivers. They've got Mark Andrews, great tight end, and universally understood to be his primary target. They've got Mark Ingram. They've got Dobbins, who everybody's excited about. So tons of talent across the skill positions and creative coordinators. So I think, like, if you're ready to just watch football at its, like, and I mean this in a nice way, like at its shallowest, like you just want pure excitement and
Right.
points all the time.
Casual fan. Yeah.
Like, this is the team you should be tuning into, besides the Chiefs, and maybe even more so than the Chiefs, because it's probably tied. Like, they're both very exciting.
Yeah.
So you can't do a team preview without acknowledging that the Ravens offense is like, it's like the offense to watch, basically, besides, the Super Bowl champions, the team that didn't choke it away. No big deal.
And I'll add one more thing to be excited about. It's kind of like an insider thing to be excited about. Tavon Young is back and he's healthy. And he is a very, very good slot corner. And that's just going to allow more flexibility on the defense. And adding him back, I think, has been kind of understated this offseason with all the craziness.
I was going to throw you that softball if you didn't bring it up yourself. One of Joey's favorite pastimes on this podcast is a brag about the Ravens corners, and he's been doing that without them having one of their top starters.
Yep.
Now, Joey's going to tell you he's a top starter because over the course of his 4-year career, he's played 2 seasons, and those 2 seasons were people are excited about them. So think of this. I'm going to talk to all the non-Ravens fans. Think of this as like the San Francisco Giants. Every even year, the Ravens get Tavon Young, and it's awesome. And then every odd year, he's gone, and it sucks. So this is an even year, so you get to be really excited. And now next year, he's going to get hurt again and miss the whole season. So this is a great time to be a Ravens fan. You got all 25 Pro Bowl corners on the roster, and life is grand. Life is grand. So
Yeah.
would he be the player that you would like to highlight as a guy that you already said Marquise Brown too, that you're like just really excited to watch?
Yeah, there's a lot of guys. I'd say just from like pure excitement, yeah, Hollywood would be first, and then like Dobbins or Queen, just because they're new, young guys, excited. Like Tavon Young,
Yeah.
slot corner is not like a glamorous, like fun to watch type of position necessarily. So, um, yeah, I'd say the two top picks. Excited for them.
And I sent you a text before this. Did you play my game? Did you look at the rosters for people who you just want to see play so that you can hear their names announced on TV more?
Oh, you already know my answer here. And I'm excited about him too, but he plays another unglamorous position, but presumably filling the big shoes of Michael Pierce eventually from Texas A&M is one Justin Madabuki. And I don't know if
Yeah.
I'm saying that right or not, but it's
No
fun as
one.
fuck.
I was gonna go Buike, but
Yeah, maybe.
yeah, he's exciting. I'm on record as hoping he ended up on the Steelers, so there's definitely a part of my heart that's going to want to see him do well because it means that I like good players. Um, I went a different route.
Okay.
DJ Fluker. I think that's going to be I like that. DJ Fluker, potential right guard replacement of Marshall Yan. He's a guy that could actually play this year legitimately. That I'm excited to hear his name. It kind of rolls off the tongue. So you're not always going to be watching him. He's kind of inside there, just plugging along. Probably doesn't even really have to do anything because Lamar's just running around the outside for 25 yards anyway. But maybe he pancakes somebody once or twice. You get that, whoa, DJ Fluker with the pancake. And I have one more for you. I'm pretty sure this guy's not going to make the team, but he's strong safety. Nigel Warrior
Yeah.
on the roster right now. Hasn't been cut yet. Classic football name. Tons of joke material, tons of corny announcer material right there for some really pristine television moments. So I'm kind of hoping that Nigel Warrior ends up on the field for the Ravens a couple times this year. Strong safety.
Yeah. All right.
So that's the Ravens. They're probably going to lose the division even though they're favored to win. And this is when you get to be peak excitement.
I heard an over under today of 11 and a half.
11 and a half wins.
Yeah.
Did you take a second
So-
mortgage on your house to take that over?
No. I wouldn't do that.
Is that because your wife is in the room and you don't want to tell her?
No, she's not here. I don't know. I don't like. You never know. Lamar could get hurt week 4, and then everything goes to hell. We got Bobby
Dude.
3 Sticks in there.
12 wins should be a gimme for this team.
Should be, but you just don't know what happens.
All right. No second mortgage for Joey. Lacks confidence in his team. No big deal.
I did place a bet Super Bowl week of last year for the Ravens to win the Super Bowl this year, though.
Nice. Nice.
So
Maybe they'll do it as a 10-6 team and it'll all pay off for you.
Every time the Ravens have won the Super Bowl, it's been as a wild card. So
Okay. Okay. Great. You know, here's hoping from my side too that you're the wild card. I'll take that division. I'll take that division crown.
So
So let's
if the Ravens make the wild card, we have to assume that the team that won the division is the Cincinnati Bengals. No,
yeah, I
yeah,
think that's fair.
for sure.
I think that the trajectory is clear.
I mean,
Sky rockets in flight.
guys that they lost this year, only Andy Dalton, Tyler Eifert, Darquez Denard, Drake Kirkpatrick, B.W. Webb, Nick Vigil, Cordy Glenn, and Andrew Billings.
And at this point, Trey Waynes, who they signed
Yeah.
but has torn his pectoral. Jordan Evans, who was supposed to be starting at linebacker but has a hamstring injury and is out indefinitely. And Sean Williams, potential, basically like dime linebacker, played strong safety last week, has a calf injury. And of course, I think it wouldn't be fair and we wouldn't be good football analysis if we didn't project that AJ Green will miss most of the season.
For certain.
So Cincinnati lost AJ Green, and that's definitely unfortunate. We definitely wish AJ Green a speedy recovery from his future injury. Could be happening right now.
Cold Heat
But
Wave says
yes,
hi on Twitch, says Trey Waynes is overrated, and that's why the Vikings don't want him. Yeah, but he's
well,
fast.
he's certainly overrated this year. I
Yeah,
mean, like,
yeah, hard to play corner with one peck.
yeah, can't deny that he will not be meeting expectations in the 2020 season. So sound analysis. Thank you for your comment. How about some additions? Because they still have a team.
Yeah.
They got a really fun guy, DJ Reader. He's going to
Mm-hmm.
be playing interior line. Cincinnati, we love that defensive line. We love it when we have to say something nice about Cincinnati. We almost always go to the defensive line. So DJ
Yeah.
Reader, get ready to get some compliments from us this year. Josh Bynes, speaking of Ravens linebackers off the street,
That's
this is the
right.
guy you're talking about. He moved to Cincinnati, and we're hoping he can repeat his success as a sort of adequate starting linebacker, which is better than Cincinnati had last year. And back to sort of exciting, Von Bell from the Saints plays strong safety. Could make actually a pretty fun combo to watch with Jesse Bates. So some good defensive stuff there.
Yeah. Especially with the loss of Trey Waynes, Mackenzie Alexander is another corner that they signed. He's more of like a prototypical slot guy.
Oh,
But
he's not still trying to find his dad in those
but
cranberry
who knows
fields?
now? They found his dad.
I know. That was a joke. They found him. He's fine.
Yeah.
Mackenzie Alexander beat up the dude that I guess went cranberry picking with him, but I guess he's not in jail anymore. So
Nope.
Cincinnati, they're not a
Yay.
pickup.
Yeah. He's the Pac-Man Jones tribute roster spot this year.
Although, in all seriousness, dude, if your dad goes cranberry picking with some other guy and that dude just like leaves him behind, and then your dad has to show up to the park station like 3 days later, you probably should just hit that guy in the forehead with your fist once. Like,
Yeah, at
so
least once.
Mackenzie
Yeah.
Alexander, you officially have my blessing for any non-naming you did to just remind that guy that we live in a society and we don't leave people behind in cranberry fields. Okay,
That's
so
right.
glad to have you back, Mackenzie. I'm actually more excited about Darius Phillips, who has been filling in some starting cornerback with the loss of Trey Waynes. And guess what? Doing pretty well at it. And we are very high on Darius Phillips on this podcast. If you'll let me speak for you for just a moment, he might be our favorite Bengal.
Yeah, he's definitely the AFC North cast Bengal of the year.
Yeah,
I think from
at
last
least
year.
for last year. But
Yeah.
presumptive favorite going into this year, Joe Burrow. You're gonna have to earn it, buddy. Um, I'm excited. I'm rooting for this guy to start. I like him. He's a punt returner. He's fun. He's got a nose for the football. Like, that's not really what we're talking about, but he's exciting. So they got some exciting players. And that's why if the Ravens don't win the division, we're obviously picking Cincinnati to sneak in and take it. Um, Despite that, Joey, do you have any questions that you feel like this team needs to answer this year?
Heavens, do I? Obviously, Joe Burrow is a big question. He is the question in Cincinnati. At any time you draft a quarterback, number one overall, that's like the big question. Is he Ryan Leaf or is he Peyton Manning? And then AJ, like, what's the offense? Everything on the offense is in question except for Joe Mixon, who is on the precipice of a 4-year, $48 million reported contract extension that'll keep him here for 5 more years, which is like kind of unusual, kind of nice to see. 12 mil a year, the Bengals dishing out for a position that doesn't necessarily get paid a ton anymore.
Yeah, congrats to Joe Mixon and good on the Bengals for spending what seems to be like top dollar, but really it's a pretty nice little deal for
Yeah.
like a top tier running back. When the Bengals have run their offense through Mixon, they've been at their best. So that's good. He can catch the ball in the backfield. He can pass protect. He knows the offense back to front. Like, this is a guy who's not going to miss assignments and let your number one draft pick get hamstrung from behind like some fourth round rookie that you're like, he's 80% as good. Yeah, well, the 20% is pass protection, and now your quarterback's dead. So he's a good, he's worth $12 million. Like, we're not talking about 20 million that you give to Aaron Donald nowadays or whatever, like, or Khalil Mack or what TJ Watt's going to get next year. Like, this is a good deal for a player that heavily impacts what you do on offense. I disagree that Joe is a question. Joe is the answer. Joe is pure excitement. Like, if you want to talk about just everybody being so excited, no one's asking questions about Joe. Even when he makes mistakes, everyone loves Joe. Joe is the mentality. He's got the hair. He's got the jawline. No one's going to question Joe for at least 2 months. Like, it's only excitement all the time. If you want to ask questions about the offense, it's all about scheme. Because if Joe fails, it's the coaches. Are they going to protect Joe by riding Mixon successfully the way they
Mm.
did in the second half of last year so that he has easier reads, so that he can transition, so that you're protecting the offensive line, which is the other huge question. Is Cincinnati's offensive line going to be like a non-carport opening this year? Like, that would be pretty cool for a rookie quarterback. Somebody blocks every now and again.
Yep.
Um, if it's going to be somebody, it's probably not going to be Bobby Hart, who looks like he's starting at right tackle again, and at least in camp, doing it pretty poorly so far this year. So,
Yeah, so poorly that a guy named Fred Johnson has been pushing the competition.
not just a guy, he was the most recent in a string of Steelers finding diamond in the rough offensive linemen and then trying to hide them from the NFL. The Bengals picked them up from the Steelers last year when they tried to sneak him onto the practice squad. So I wouldn't be surprised if Fred Johnson ends up in the role.
So if
But
you're thinking to yourself, who the fuck's Fred Johnson? You'd be correct.
right, yeah, I mean, yeah, he was, an also ran practice squad type guy. So yeah, he's got a ways to go before he's a household name. But you know, Bobby Hart's a household name in Cincinnati.
Yeah,
People
he
yell
sure is.
his name and then they yell some sort of swear word. So that's what's going on in Cincinnati households with Bobby Hart. So Fred Johnson could be a step up. The other question I have is D related. Are we going to see a running back get tackled this year in a Cincinnati game? Maybe.
At the first level, maybe.
Because I mean, we
Second
got Jermaine
level,
Pratt. He's improving. He's improving.
mm-hmm.
You got Josh Bynes. He
Tackling
started.
machine.
I mean, he started for the Ravens, and you can never say a bad word about the
Well,
Ravens
hey,
defense.
hey, the Ravens game against the Browns last year in Baltimore was like the holy fuck. We need to do something to fix this game. And Josh Bynes was the answer, baby.
There you go. And no matter how much of a genius your coordinators are, you can't draw up a tackle, right? So he was doing that
That's
part of it.
right.
You
Wink Martindale cannot make the tackle.
can't write that up in the notebook. That's the part the player has to do. So, I mean, Josh Bynes, Jermaine Pratt, uh, you might see some incremental improvement this year from Cincinnati's run defense. I'm not going to say anything more than that. Still a question. Still a question, but I think there is at least in all these things reason for hope. I think, the other thing that we didn't mention is, and did I write his name down? Rats. Whatever that offensive lineman Cincinnati took last year that was hurt, he's
Jonah
playing.
Williams.
Yeah, Jonah Williams. So the offensive line could very well be better. The scheme could be better because the second half of last year it was, and the run defense could be better. So we're asking questions skeptically, but there is reason for Bengals fans to feel like these will all be areas of improvement.
Yeah, I think the Bengals could easily go like 6-10 and be like, yeah, like we've got the beginning of something here. So
Yeah. Now, obviously, you said Joe was a question, but he's really the thing that Bengals fans are most excited about, and I covered that. So, what else are you really excited about for the Bengals?
I'm excited about T. Higgins. I think he is basically the heir apparent to AJ. The Bengals are really good at finding wide receivers. It goes all the way back to the Ocho Cinco days with Chris Henry and Pushmanzada was like a veteran ad, but man,
Mohamed Sanu, wasn't he a
there you
Bengal?
go. Marvin Jones, um, you know, they always find these guys, and it's the guys, with the exception of Ocho Cinco, it's the guys that are more built like T. Higgins, the bigger guys with the long reach, and so that'll be exciting. And he and Joe can grow together in the game, and should be
Gotta
pretty good.
like
Should
that.
be excited about T. Higgins.
He's been a little bit of a slow developer at camp. He's had a couple minor nagging injuries, so it's hard to like guarantee immediate production for him. But I I still agree with you that the wide receiver core is a place for excitement. You have AJ Green back for however long he plays until that unfortunate injury. You've got Tyler Boyd, uh, who I think is still underrated despite being their number one and doing it well last year. You got Auden Tate, who I guess isn't very good, and yet if you throw the ball 5 feet away from him, he catches it like every time.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that makes you a bad receiver, but
There's a
he's
lot of
going to be somewhere
training
on the
camp hype
roster.
about him.
Yeah, there should be. You can't guard him.
Yeah.
Now, if he's open, he might just drop it. But if you just throw the ball at the defender that's guarding him, he'll catch it.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they haven't figured that out yet. I figured it out in a couple of weeks of watching him play games. Not to toot my own horn or anything, but it's going to be fun. And we love Tyler Eifert. We are always cheering for him. But I think that CJ Uzama is a pretty good receiving tight end. And we know that Joe Burrow likes to spread it around, and he's not afraid to use those guys that are coming out of the inside. So I think it'll be a fun offense to watch. And they're probably going to be behind a fair amount. So, they'll be getting creative. They'll be slinging it around. And Joe Mixon's fun. So I think the passing game is going to be exciting.
Cold Heat Wave says hi, says we won't leave AJ Green alone. And I will say this. When AJ Green is healthy and actually playing, I think he's easily a top 5 receiver in the NFL. And
tell that dude that I want to hear his last memory of AJ Green.
Right.
And when it was. What was the date?
He is also the single player in the NFL that, specifically as a Ravens fan, I fear the most.
Sure. My last memory of him is 2 years ago when he scored 3 touchdowns on the Ravens in the first half.
But I think that was, that Thursday night football game. Yeah.
I think that was week 4
yep.
of the 2018 season. So, I mean, we were 25,000 generations of the virus that eventually causes pandemic. That's how many times this thing mutated before we got to where we are today. You know, that's like a long time.
But yeah, I mean, the ambiguity of his injuries last year and whether he's embellishing because he's upset with his contract and all that, like,
Yeah,
I think he's past the point of earning our benefit of the doubt. But when he
I like
plays,
him.
he's fantastic.
Hey, I put the wide receiver core on points of excitement, not question. Okay.
Yeah.
I forgot who said that comment, but I like AJ Green. I just can't help it that I know it's going to happen. Look, that's why I'm here doing the podcast, amateur professionally, for no money, and you know, people are listening. I also think the D line. You got to mention the D line. You got all sorts of great players. You got Sam
All
Hubbard.
these guys are coming
you
back.
got Gino. You got crap.
Dunlap.
Who's the other guy? Dunlap. That's the guy.
Yeah.
And you got DJ Reader now. So they're going to be great. It's going to be so fun to watch them. It's AFC North. It's our new tradition. Is just dominant defensive fronts. Cincinnati may be the worst team in the division, but they're no different when it comes to the quality of the defensive front. Super fun to watch, and they'll be great. And if they can stay in a close game, those guys will actually get after the quarterback a little bit, and you'll really get to see their talents. Choice. Very fun players to watch all around. You have a single player that you're excited about? I wrote down Darius Phillips. I can't help it. I love Darius Phillips. I want him to start. I want to watch him match up. I want to watch him match up against Marquise Brown. Dude, that'd be so fun. That'd be so fun for me.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm excited to see Burrow.
Sure.
I
guess one of us had to say it.
loosely root for LSU. LSU was must-watch television last year. And I understand they had, in most of the games they played, like a pretty big talent discrepancy at the skill positions, but like they were incredible on offense last year. And so if Zach Taylor can tap into that even 50% in his rookie year, like he's going to be really fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, he really grew a lot. It's always fun after that post-college hype to see like what this number one pick does. You know, like Baker Mayfield brought tons of excitement once he got in. So there's a lot of excitement and potential. And he's going to be the center of all that drama. I, of course, as a deep football fan, I'm not going to just pick the obvious guy. Like I already talked to him. So Darius Phillips. Who's the guy that you want to see his name all over those announcers' mouth? Like, who's the guy that's got the name that you want on TV this year on the Bengals?
It's the Lamar stopper himself.
He's not. He opted out.
Oh, well, then
Josh
nobody.
Tupu?
Yeah.
Josh Topu? All right. Well, that's a good choice.
I scoured, like, roster predictions and things like that for a good name. Nothing spoke to me.
Yeah, it's tough. I've got two. CJ Uzama. I just think that's it's easy to pronounce, but it's different. So like you like hearing it. It rolls off the tongue. No one's gonna mispronounce it. This is one that's like the opposite of Fluker. It's the opposite of Nigel Warrior. It's just nice. It's clean. It's just rolls across the tongue. You're like, yeah, Uzama, man, what a great stiff arm. So I like seeing CJ Uzama do well. I just like saying his name. I like hearing it. Also, a guy a little deeper on the depth chart that you might keep an eye out. He's currently backing up Geno Atkins at right defensive tackle. Freedom, forgive me for reading this.
Ooh.
Akin Moladoon. Yeah.
His first name is Freedom.
You got that straight.
Hell yeah. I did not see that name. I would have hopped all over that one.
That's why I am the gold medal reader on the AFC Northcast. Yeah, Freedom Akin Muladoon. You got it. We'll see. We'll see how it's said. We'll see if it's said the same time twice.
Yeah.
We're hoping for him to make the roster. We don't root for injuries here on the AFC Northcast. But if he gets an opportunity, I want to hear the announcer say that name. Don't shortcut it.
Chad did so much reading in preparation for this analysis that the Cincinnati Bengals actually sent him the little coupon for like a personal pan pizza from Pizza Hut.
Yep. And I love personal pan pizzas. So they know the way to my heart. Cincinnati. They always knew the way to my heart. And it's not Skyline Chili. So well played. Well played.
All
Should we
right.
talk about the Browns?
Yeah, let's move on up the river.
We'll cover the Browns draft next week for sure. But for now, we're just going to do a general draft preview. Um, Losses and injuries. Man, the Browns have been bit by that injury bug this camp, have they not? You've been more thorough about this than me, so I'm going to just slow it down until you start running through the names because you had way more on Cincinnati than I wrote down.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about free agency. We do have some nice cats. Thank you. Both our cats have made
Yeah.
appearances today. The middle of the field. Speaking of teams with questions in the middle of the field, the Browns lost Joe Schobert, Christian Kirksey, safeties Eric Murray and Demarius Randall. That's troubling. They lost Carey. I can never remember if his name is TJ or like
TJ.
Travis. I don't know.
It might be Travis, but he goes by TJ.
TJ Carey. And then had quite an overhaul at the tight end position after losing Ricky Seals-Jones, who was really exciting at the end of last year, and Demetrius Harris.
He was their most productive tight end last year, but I don't know if that's saying a whole heck of a lot. And then they had Andrew Billings opt out, who was signed from Cincinnati, which is like pretty disappointing because he, if you are an avid listener to this podcast, is a pretty bright young talent. Like he had a potential of actually really improving an already excellent, we'll keep saying it, broken record, excellent defensive front. But not this year. And then they had Kevin Johnson, who's their favorite. Nobody knows his name, but supposedly he's a Pro Bowl slot corner. Kevin Johnson lacerated his liver. So, yeah, but he supposedly is on his way back. Apparently lacerating your liver, not A, mortal, B, not even that long term. So, great news for Kevin Johnson. We're all rooting for his hasty return. And they also lost Mac Wilson for the year. So now we're talking about the guy that replaced the linebackers that they released and was supposed to start. He's out. They lost, and I think he's out for long term with a knee injury, like either the year or close to it. And they lost second round safety, supposed to start, Grant Delpit for the year.
Yeah.
And Greedy Williams is sort of mysteriously hurt for the last week and a half. So we don't know if he's going to play early on or not. He's got a shoulder injury. So sorry, Browns fans. These are all young, exciting players. Like, I'm probably not going to be able to resist making some jokes as we go on here. But it's not, we wanted to see that defense come together. A lot of exciting young players. So definitely disappointing. A lot of losses. But they did bring in some new exciting people. They brought in Jack Conklin for all the people that are tired of seeing Baker Mayfield get sacked all the time. He'll be protecting the left side of the offensive line. Savvy veteran. I believe he's made at least a Pro Bowl. He's good. Haven't heard anything about him in camp, which means he's just winning most of his reps the way he's supposed to. So, good signing. Jack Conklin. Boring, but good. Then they got Austin Hooper, who they signed to a record amount of money for a tight end. A lot of critique there, but everybody seems very happy with him at camp. He's supposed to be the main starting tight end in an offense that'll probably often use two. So good on that. Carl Joseph. That's pretty relevant because he plays safety and they don't have any. So he's going to play a lot this year. He's a young guy, but he's been in the league for a long time. So you can expect some productivity out of him. And because they literally had no safeties at all, they also signed another veteran, Andrew Sendejo. You can already guess what segment I'm going to bring him back up in. And He's been in the league for 10 years. He's pretty good. So the Browns are at least they've got veterans that they can put in there. So that's good. They are at least professional, if not super exciting.
Yeah, I also have. I think they signed Adrian Claiborne,
Hmm,
another defensive lineman, to
you're
add to
right.
their plethora of defensive Olivier Vernon and Miles Garrett, and um, perhaps the most important signing that they made this offseason is one Andy Janovich. He is their fullback. The soft ass,
Oh,
candy ass Cleveland Browns didn't have a fullback last year because Freddie Kitchens thought that they were playing fucking ballet out there with a zillion wide receivers. Well, there's a new sheriff in town, and we're using the fullback, baby.
okay.
AFC North, Smash Mouth football, and also Case Keenum. With all this COVID 19 business going around, you can never have too many backup quarterbacks. That's what I always say.
Case Keenum has been to an NFC championship game.
With Kevin
So,
Stefanski.
whoa. Could we have a quarterback battle on our hands? Oh man, so that's great. So what kind of questions do you have about the Cleveland that they need to answer besides can they ever have a coach for more than a year? Can they ever win? Can they settle on a uniform even though they always do the same thing? It's really boring.
I think my biggest question, because I have two, but one of the questions is also an excitement. Um, the biggest question is what quarterback is Baker?
Yeah, that's
Is
number one for
Baker
me.
the year one quarterback, or with the confidence and the poise and kind of the hold my dick attitude, or is Baker the year two quarterback who is running himself into sacks in the pocket and doing things like that?
Yeah, I was listening to an NFL podcast sponsored by The Ringer, and they said that statistically, quarterbacks usually have their biggest jump from year one to year two. And it made me think immediately of Baker because I had been doing all
I
the
feel like that's
hours and
not
hours of
true.
research I do for these podcasts. It's statistically speaking, the
Yeah.
biggest leap is usually from year one to year two. Um, Obviously, it's a curve, Joey.
Where does sophomore
Statistics,
slump come from?
not quarterbacks.
No. Okay.
Every other position, Joey. Come on, keep up. So, so the thing is, I think that Baker should be considered a possible curve breaker here because he's never played under the same system, but could also just fall right into the curve because this is still a new system
Again.
again.
Yeah.
So that's why it's a question, people. We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. What we do know is that never in his career will he throw to more talented people. So he better not screw it up because no one's going to forgive him for it. Sorry, dude. I forgive you. Systems are hard to learn. Everybody gets better when they play in the same system for a long time. Literally everybody. So I'm with you, Baker. I know you're a listener. We're a team. I get it. But no one else is going to forgive you. And unfortunately, that includes the fans of your team. So you just need to throw it to Jarvis and Odell and Kareem and Nick. He'll catch it. He can catch it. Nick Chubb can catch it. I'm telling you. And Austin and that new Harris rookie tight end, even Njoku might catch it sometimes. And no one likes him, so if he drops it, they won't blame me. So you should throw it to him a lot, and it'll be okay. But I am a little nervous, and that is a question. I think the O line is another question here. Um, the Browns signed Jack Conklin to do one tackle. They have Jedrick Wills playing the other tackle. I think I
Yep.
said that Conklin was left tackle. I lied. He's the right tackle. Jedrick Wills is going to be the left tackle. And he has reportedly been having some learning curves at camp. Don't panic, people. Do not panic. This is a very shortened off season, and he's a rookie. He'll get it. He's also being rushed by Miles Garrett and other very talented people all the time. So he's learning. Like, this is one of those times when you talk about jumping into the deep end of a pool. This is that type of conversation right now. But still, it's a question. Also, J.C. Treader was our favorite center in the AFC North last year, and he hasn't played yet. So right now they're also starting a rookie at center. So I am forced, objectively, not just because I'm a Steelers fan, to say like there are questions about the Browns' offensive line because they might be starting two rookies against Baltimore week one,
Week one.
right? Isn't Baltimore week one?
Yep.
So like, I mean, even if you think Matt Judon is not only not coveted but not even that good, they still are super creative at rushing the quarterback. Like Baker is going to be like freaking out. So there's some, there's some questions. That's a question. That's just a question that we need to answer. But I've heard that the rookie's actually playing pretty good center. I can't remember his name right now. Sorry.
I just got a rush of confidence and excitement about week one, so
About week one.
don't mind me. Yeah. We just talked about how the back end of their defense is in shambles. I was just like,
Yeah. I mean,
oh.
look.
But that's not what this is about. That's not what this is. We're not going to run down the Browns too
Well,
much
look,
here.
look, like you said, the Ravens are going to be favored every week, and yeah, the Browns have definite questions in their secondary and with linebackers right now. Like the Ravens have all like, dude, Mark Andrews, 25 catches for 900 yards. Anyone? Well, it'll be like one of those Madden statistic games. But speaking of that, I think linebacker play is a big question mark for the Browns. They took a big gamble getting rid of two proven veterans that our Browns guy Justin really liked, particularly Schobert. I mean, this is like a veteran, not only in the locker room but on the field with his play. And it bit him with the injury bug. Mac Wilson showed some potential, but now he's out. So you got a guy in Sion Taki. We'll talk about that again. And he's a physical guy. He's what you kind of hope Malik Harrison will develop into, I think, as a Ravens fan. Showed some potential, but, you know, he hasn't really played that much yet. And now he's kind of like your leader. And, so we're rooting for him, but, there's probably going to be a learning curve, and that means some mistakes, and that means some frustration along the way.
Yep. Any other questions that you have?
No, I think those three pretty much cover it for me.
All right. Why should Browns fans be excited?
I think your offensive skill positions are basically a Pro Bowl unit. So if you like all-star games, then you should be really excited about the Browns because they are amazing at the skill positions. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, you should be thinking, I don't care if we have an offensive line. All Baker has to do is treat this like a game of 500. Just like throw the ball. Just catch it and close your eyes, throw it. And it'll probably work out better more often than it works out worse. You got Jarvis Landry. You got Odell Beckham Jr. You got Hollywood Higgins, who, yes, I shouldn't have brought his name up yet, but he's got crazy chemistry with Baker Mayfield. If they cut him this year, I am going to freak out. You got Austin Hooper. You got Njoku, who, again, okay, he's not really whatever. Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb. Like, these guys are all really, really darn good. Like, it is impossible to guard all those people. You just can't do it. No one's going to do it. The Ravens aren't going to do it. No one's going to do it. So you got to be so excited about that, right?
Yeah, you have to. And I think, in addition, just to piggyback on that, I think the thing that's most exciting about the offense is Kevin Stefanski. Statistically, Baker Mayfield has been a different quarterback when there's two wide receivers on the field, whether that's two backs and a tight end, two tight ends and one running back. When there's only two wide receivers out there, he's fantastic. And Freddie Kitchens was just addicted to three wide receivers for some reason, and it doomed them. And Baker shit his pants last year.
Harrison Bryant.
Stefanski,
that's the second
that's
tight
his
end.
name, the rookie tight end. Stefanski is going to get 21 and 12 personnel out there, and I think Baker will be better for it.
I'm with you. I also, I'm going to stay the course here. I wrote this down before uh, the tragic bus accident that seemed to eliminate their entire secondary. I'm going to stick with the secondary. I think that the Browns should still be very excited. You can still be excited about Grant Delpit because it was like his rookie year anyway. So he's exciting, right? He's on your team. You've got Greedy Williams. He's going to be back. He's not going to miss the whole year. He might miss week one. We'll see. You've got shit. What's his face? Ward. Loved him. Denzel Ward.
Uh-huh.
He's awesome. Legitimate. Might be the best corner in the division. I don't know. Probably not, but he's right there. You've got uh, Money Mitchell. He's playing his butt off again this year. He played great coming off the bench as a backup last year. He's awesome. You've got oh yeah, Kevin Johnson. But look, liver lacerations aren't a big deal, so he's going to play. He's an excellent slot cornerback. He's good. You've got these veteran safeties that are going to be fine, and if you lose them, even though he's bad, his name's fun to say. You got Sheldrick Redwine backing up at safety. So I like the secondary. I think that the Browns are actually going to play well in the secondary despite the injuries, just like they did last year.
They did,
They did
yeah.
they did really well last year despite a bunch of injuries, and I think that the fans should expect the same thing again. Um, and then of course Miles Garrett had to spend the last month and a half of the season watching Miles Garrett not tear apart whoever was in front of him on his way to the quarterback unimpeded. He's back. He's back, and he's still young, and he's still a devastating force of nature. And I think you should expect him to just be like running roughshod on everybody, like immediately. That includes whatever Ravens lineman is in his way. He's probably going to be better than. So
Yeah.
that's exciting. I mean, like you got to be excited. Miles Garrett, he's the best player on your team.
10 sacks in 10 games last year. I mean,
Yeah,
he's incredible.
that's good. That's good for those of you keeping track.
For those of you new to football.
New to football, 10 sacks in 10 games. That makes you good. Um, Player, I already brought him up once. The player that I'm excited about, I just can't get over Rashard Higgins. And he is out of time. He might not make the roster this year despite incredible chemistry with Baker. He is also in danger of being literally erased from our division. He's no longer Hollywood, and he might no longer be Higgins if he
He lost
doesn't
his
step up to the
number
plate.
to Austin Hooper.
Dude, he needs this is like Back to the Future right now. He is on the stage, his fingers are twitching. He might not be able to get through the song. You got to get through the song so that you and Baker can fall back in love. I'm definitely muddling this up right now, but it doesn't matter. Rashard Higgins, I'm so excited about him. I just need him to come in, and even if it falls like apart, you know he's going to score like one touchdown and then be inexplicably benched.
Yeah. Or like 2 touchdowns and a half. Yeah.
Yeah. They'll be like, he missed an assignment. It's like, is that on the touchdown or the?
Yeah. Yeah. OBJ will get like a stinger and come out for like 2 drives, and Higgins will get 2 touchdowns, and then OBJ will come back, and we won't see Higgins again the rest of the year.
And the Browns will lose like 42-14
Yeah.
to Detroit.
Ugh.
That was mean. How about you? Any player that you're really excited about on the Browns?
I've got a name all star. Another member of the ravaged secondary that might find his way into some playing time is one Donovan Olumba.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
What's he play?
Corner.
Is he? Oh, he's a corner. So you
Yeah.
think he might sneak in there?
Maybe.
Okay. Donovan Alumba. I went with guys we already talked about for the name I want to hear often and all the time. Sion Taki. This is a guy. Taki, you can almost hear the impact of him repeatedly tackling people. It's got a great ring to it. I think that I think that we're gonna start to. I might actually start hating hearing his name after
Yeah.
they play the Steelers. There's a decent chance of that. But until then, very excited. And of course, Sheldrick Redwine never gets old. never gets old hearing him on the field. I just think it's like class, but like maybe not.
Yeah, because he's a gangster too. He's from the
Yeah,
U,
I don't
and he
I don't know.
embodies the U. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are my guys that I just want to hear all over the television when we're watching the Browns games this year.
Right on. All right, we will move on
Best for last, right?
to the hated Pittsburgh Steelers.
Best for last. Pumped, pumped. Taking the division back this year.
I'll get us started off. Some guys that the Steelers lost. Maybe the scariest man in football retired, Ramon Foster. When he's angry, like he'll get like angry in an interview when they were like talking about AB and some stuff like that. It's like, oh man.
Yeah, yeah, he's big and yeah, he's got that quality to him.
And a lot of names that you know if you follow the Steelers: Javon Hargrave, Artie Burns, Sean Davis, Roosevelt Nix got replaced by another Watt brother, and Mark Barron.
Yep, yep. Javon Hargrave is the big one. He stepped in last year when Tuitt got hurt and played. I mean, if the AFC North wasn't so full of incredible defensive line players, like, I mean, we're talking about borderline Pro Bowl talent. They just couldn't afford to keep him this year. He's on the Eagles. Um, they've been relatively unhurt by injuries, but I will note, because we noted all the other teams, Deontay Johnson, who looks to have a pretty big role in the passing attack. Excuse me, he's been a little bit encumbered by some uh, injuries of an unknown nature to me. So he hasn't practiced as much as you'd like, especially considering like he's got very little chemistry with Ben. So you know you want him to be catching a lot of balls from Big Ben.
Yeah.
Chris Wormley, who we're going to talk about as a sign, has been kind of hurt, which is really disappointing because you're expecting him to be like your first replacement on the D line.
Mm-hmm.
So he hasn't really been in much. He's had two different injuries. He hurt his knee and was out for a couple days, and he hurt his shoulder. So that's definitely disappointing too. I expect him to be active for week one, but when you miss time, especially in a shortened camp like this, it could actually have pretty legitimate impacts on his role on the defense, like for the first maybe even month, as he plays catch up. And then Chukwuma Okafor.
Ooh.
Nope. Okorafor, who is competing for the right tackle position
Chucks.
with
They call him Chucks.
Chucks. Call him Chucks. You'll probably hear that from the announcer. That's why he's not my guy. Nope, he is my guy, but I have another guy. He's supposed to be competing for that right tackle position. He's a third-round pick from a few years ago with Zach Banner, who's one of the Steelers' newer, unheard-of prospects. And he was leading the way, I think mostly because of his draft pick. And then he got hurt, so Zach Banner's been starting. So that's bummer. You want a legitimate competition there so that the best player can come forward, not somebody that wins by default. So that's been those have been minor but existing disappointments for injuries at camp. Did make a couple pickups. We already talked about Chris Wormley. We were hoping he'd be a great rotational defensive end, or maybe even a little bit nose tackle, but probably not. But let's not dwell on him and his injuries. Let's talk about the real exciting fullback, Derek Watt. We got a Watt. We got two Watts in Pittsburgh. Two is a lot of Watts when you're talking about a football team. Maybe not so much a light
Never
bulb,
been done before.
right? He led the league in special teams tackles last year, tied with the guy he's replacing on special teams for the Steelers, Matakevich. So the Steelers immediately replaced the need in special teams. They got a fullback that's going to be, uh, you know, really solid, and we're very excited about that. And Eric Ebron, Steelers notorious for not taking advantage of unique matchup stuff and just running their offense. So now they have two potentially matchup nightmares at tight end, and they probably will almost never be on the field together because I don't think Eric Ebron has ever blocked anything at all.
Nope.
But he can catch a touchdown. We know that. Red zone nightmare. So could be exciting. Obviously, I'm going to hope for the best. Randy Fiechner, don't disappoint me. So, questions about this team? There really aren't any questions. It's kind of like, are they going to win 14 games or 15 games, kind of
Yeah.
thing. But
Yeah.
I figure you took the extra time to come up with something because we're your rivals. So, you got questions about the Steelers?
Yeah. Um, I think the biggest question is Ben. Um, Arguably, the only thing that held them back last year was the quarterback position after Ben got hurt. Um, and to hear Ben tell it, he tore more ligaments in his elbow than any human has ever torn before, or whatever. So, this is an unprecedented recovery at the ripe old age of, I don't know, 38 ish.
Yep.
Um, so, he's in the best shape of his life, maybe. He discovered
Sure.
exercise this off
But
season.
he's still
No,
no, but he's still in the best shape.
he
He's
discovered
thin,
cocaine.
maybe, maybe.
um,
Now he's supposedly been having pain for years, and he is not having pain. And I will say that in regards to that, so Ben's typical training camp practice routine over the last 4 or 5 years has been like 1 day on, 1 day off. So a notorious not hard worker continued that trend right up until week one. And that's not the case this year. He's throwing 3 days in a row. He's throwing a lot.
oh,
So I think if you want to say that Ben's going to be bad because he's 38 or because he hasn't played in a game in over a year or because you've always thought he was bad, I will debate you on those points, but they're fair. I think that reasonable expectation is that the injury part of this is over. Like he has made a recovery and he's Big Ben,
right on.
for
We'll
better or
see.
worse.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it can't be worse than what they had last year. I don't think
No,
so.
it it would
You're
be,
already upgrading there.
yeah, and like for the Steelers to make the playoffs last year, they have to go from the 32nd ranked. That's last for those of you that are new NFL fans. They were the worst offense in the NFL. All they'd have to be is like 27th, 28th, and they're like in the playoffs. Like, so you got to figure with Ben conservatively 18th, potentially if the receivers are good, top 10. So Steelers fans are excited, irrationally so, maybe from me. You have any other questions? I'd see if you don't have any other questions. That makes sense.
Um, is there any fear of the defense and some of the turnover luck type stuff regressing to the mean? And what does that mean for the defense this year?
Um, I'm not afraid of the turnover regression because I think it's naturally going to be more than overshadowed by the offensive progression.
That's
The
fair.
defense is going to be on the field a lot less and all this other stuff. So even if the turnovers are a little less, they'll be playing in more advantageous positions more of the time and stuff. Um, but I do have questions that make me worried about particular players, one on the offense and one on the defense. And on the defense, it's Stephon Tuitt. He is better than Hargrave and basically like a potential Pro Bowl or even if everything goes right, all pro player
Mm-hmm.
if he plays for a whole season. But he doesn't always do that, doesn't even usually do it. So when you had Hargrave as a backup, it kind of didn't matter, but now we don't. So he sort of needs to be there in order for the defense to maintain that um, aura of fear that it has built over the last year. I think that the interior of the line becomes uh, kind of a wow level porous if he gets hurt. Um, so that's scary. And on the offense, kind of similar feelings about James Conner. Um, Similar level of talent when he's available, which just doesn't happen to be most of the time. I like the young running backs behind him, but they aren't him. Like he is both strong and fast and capable in pass blocking and pass catching. He is Steelers like to have an every down back, and he is that. So many people might not think of him as a Nick Chubb or a whatever, but for the Steelers, like he is that. Like he can break tackles and outrun people and do all those things. And even if he's not really like a Pro Bowl guy, he's like a number one guy if he's not hurt. So those are two guys that I just love to see them play 15 to 16 games this year. And if they do, I'll probably have a fun year watching the Steelers.
All right. Who's going to play inside linebacker with Devin Bush? They're going to bring Mark Barron back, or
Nope, no. Well, they could because they've had a little bit of injury stuff,
yeah.
and they like to tickle my emotions, even the negative ones. Um, it's probably going to be Vince Williams. He is like, look, he's not a household name, and that's fair. But he's an excellent run defender, and he is an incredibly underrated blitzer from the middle linebacker position. Like, he times his blitzes really well. And if you ever want to see a running back just go flying, that's like what he does to them when they try to step up and pick up a Vince Williams blitz. He eliminate. What did that guy say on Pardon My Take? He sends them to the shadow realm.
Yeah, George
Uh,
Masvidal.
yeah. He sends running backs to the shadow realm when they try to pick up a blitz. So, and he's like kind of been cast as a not good coverage linebacker. He's not fast. So in that way, yes, he is bad. Like in a race, he's not good, but he's very smart. He's a great communicator and he's very strong on his assignments. So he actually had a better grade in coverage than Mark Barron last year. So unless he gets put in the slot on Keenan Allen, which for the record, it will happen, um, he's probably going to be fine. But aside from that, 2 or 3 plays when he's on Keenan Allen in the slot and he gets like a touchdown scored on him, he's pretty good. So I feel good about that. We also have a guy who is in the running for the guy you want to hear the announcers say. There's a couple,
I
but I'm
think I
gonna
know.
but Ulysses Gilbert the third.
I love him
Sound
so much.
Yeah, he's sounds like he could have been a Civil War general.
Yeah.
He's the kind of guy that you just want to hear his name on TV. A lot of reason to be excited about him. He'll probably be a backup, and he's probably going to be like Ola Dini was last year. Another guy. You just want to hear all the Steelers on TV. You know what I mean? Um, but if an injury happens or he plays well enough, he could end up being the guy beside Devin Bush in the middle.
It's the legacy of Fuamatu Maafala. It's just
Yeah,
all the name guys flock to the
yeah.
Steelers.
You got to. We
Yeah.
we've got some good ones, and that doesn't even cover. I still have at least two's our skipper, another
Yep.
linebacker that you just
Yep.
like. Basically, here's the thing: if you're a linebacker on the Steelers, your name is just like begging to be called out after you just sacked the shit out of somebody, preferably Lamar Jackson or Baker Mayfield or Joe Burrow. God, they all are so satisfying to sack. Every division game is fun this year. Um, so yeah, but it is a legitimate question. I mean, you're talking about a guy that's a little bit older, maybe some questions in coverage, or a guy that's basically never played before. But the other guy's Devin Bush.
And my last question: how many Maryland Terrapins are going to make this football team?
Um, the running back should make it.
That's what I'm
I
thinking.
think. I think he's favored. He's favored right now to make it. And of course, when I say favored, you can effectively take that as me like making it up because like There's no preseason games, and the
Yeah.
Steelers actually show like less on TV than most of the other teams. So when I say that we have done shallow research, this is going to be the shallowest, right? Like it's like a sheen of water. It's like moisture. It's dew on leaves. Um, but I think he's probably going to make the team. It's the safety Antoine Brooks Jr. that is starting to become kind of more of a question mark, and the reason is that Marcus Allen, who's been on the team for a few years and done almost nothing, uh, he's been getting some snaps at inside linebacker and stuff like that. So he's been kind of getting some versatility kind of attention that leads some of the people I follow to believe that he might have the inside track to the last safety spot. But Antoine Brooks would be a strong candidate for the practice squad in
Yeah.
a year where not a lot of those guys are going to get poached because no one's ever seen him play.
Yeah. Derwin Gray, safe.
Probably practice squad at
You
this
think?
point, unless there's an injury.
Trey Edmonds.
He's probably gone, even
Uh,
though he has more interceptions than his brother, despite the fact that he's a running back. And his brother is our starting strong safety. I think I've
and
brought that up like 6 times on this podcast, and I try to every week. It's important to everyone to know that.
and there's a defensive tackle that's not going to make the team from Maryland. Also, Kayvon Walker.
Uh, oh yeah,
He's
yeah,
not going to make it.
probably not.
He wears
I
number
don't.
76, and he's a defensive tackle. So,
Mm, it's not good.
but yeah, 5 Maryland Terrapins in camp. That's more than most,
Yeah,
probably.
I mean, Tomlin loves Maryland. He loves for that Virginia, the whole seaside, Maryland, all of it, crab
He's a
cakes.
William and Mary guy, right?
But he grew up in Newport News or whatever, which right on the coast. It's all
Yeah.
right in the zone there. So yeah, it'll be a few. The Steelers will have more Maryland players than probably every other team. So you can still like
Love
us
that.
in the deepest part of your subconscious.
All right. Chad's been excited this whole time, pretty much, but let's get him even more excited. Um, I'm going to start with the one thing that I think the Steelers should be excited about. Uh, Basically, the defense from last year is intact. Like we talked about losing Hargraves, but you're getting to it back. And Bush with another year. Minka, Hayden, Steven Nelson, like
They're all
Watt,
good.
yeah,
They're all good.
Hayward. Like the defense is going to be a problem for everybody they play.
Yeah. Yeah. I just wrote down the whole defense. That's what I
Yeah,
wrote
that's
down.
why I wrote defense intact. Yeah, like
Like pick a player. You want to pick a backup player? Cam Sutton. The Steelers are going to have to decide which slot corner that's apparently not as good as every other slot corner, Mike Hilton or Cam Sutton, that they want to keep. They're both really good. Like it's they have good players. Now they don't have great backups at every position. So Cam Sutton was sort of an anomaly there. They might not even have a starting nose tackle. It looks like it's going to be Tyson Alualu, another great name to hear on TV. But dude, that man, and it's just going to be better. There's a video on Game Pass. If you have doubts about the value of Terrell Edmonds because his brother has more interceptions than he does, just know this: when Minka first got on the team last year, it was Edmonds that was communicating all the defensive assignments to him. So he might not make a ton of splash plays yet, but there is hope, and the hope is in the fact that he really does have mastery of the defensive concepts from the strong safety position and across the board. He knows what everybody's assignment is, and as a guy that loves Chuck Clark, you can get behind having safeties that know where everyone is supposed to be at all times. So if
yeah,
he's the most boring player on this defense, he is still a part of it that has plenty of value. So definitely the defense is super exciting, and the wide receiver factory is exciting. This is a really you could almost call it a question mark because for the first time in a while, the Steelers maybe have questions about if they even have a number one wide receiver. Juju had a down year last year, statistically, partially due to injuries, partially due to quarterback play, maybe partially due to himself. Um, but then you've got Deontay Johnson, who like had a great rookie campaign. James Washington had a great second year, really showed a lot of the qualities as far as being a deep ball catcher that we were looking for from him. And you've got Ryan Switzer back.
Chad's
He's
favorite
jacked too.
Steeler.
He's jacked too. Hot, you've got a jacked guy. You've got Hollywood Brown. We've got Ryan Switzer. He's jacked apparently. So everybody's getting jacked, Joey. It's like the thing to do. Um, and we got Claypool, and I know it's camp, and I know it's boring, but like he's catching touchdowns in the red zone drills already, and people are talking like you're gonna have to double team this guy. He's like too big. Like he's just too. And I was worried at first because one of the first pictures they showed of him was him running routes with his hands taped together, and you're like, oh my god, this dude doesn't know how to catch a football. But ever, but ever since then, everything has been glowing. Like you never know with camp any year, and especially this year, but it really sounds like he is immediately going to be on the field at minimum in the red zone. Like he is carving out a role for himself, even with those three wide receivers who all have talent ahead of him. So it might not always work out for the Steelers in terms of winning, but it's going to be exciting to see if a superstar emerges from that group of four players this year.
All right. Lots of
You
excitement.
have to name a player. You have to name a player that you are excited to watch this year. You have to.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to watch him. My player that I would love if he got on the field is Anthony McFarland. Uh, he's not a name guy, but he's a Terp, and he was electric at Maryland when he was able to get on the field. I read that they like some of the pass catching things that he can do.
Mm-hmm.
They've enjoyed some of that in camp, and so maybe he can kind of shoehorn his way in on some of these third down opportunities and spell James Conner and get some playing time. I like to see him.
Yeah. Mine is going to be like the emergence of the third linebacker, be it outside or inside. Like who comes in to spell people? Because no matter who it is, I'm excited. We've got the rookie Alex Highsmith, and he might kind of be leading as the outside, which is a little disappointing because I was so pumped about Ola Adeniyi. And if he's already been passed by this rookie, his time with the Steelers is going to be short, to be honest. But like you got Tuzar Skipper, Ulysses Gilbert the third, Adeniyi. These are all TV names. They're all people I'm excited about. And like, I don't know, I'm excited to get back to this like Steelers get linebackers all the time lifestyle. And
Yeah.
I feel like we might have it right now. I feel like we might have like a bunch of really talented guys waiting in the wings. And Bud Dupree is on the franchise tag. Like he is probably not going to be back next year. So I also not only am excited to watch another outside linebacker, I like need one of them to be good. um, and I'll transition sort of into the name ones because I have one more guy besides all those linebackers that are all fun to say their names. I don't think this guy's going to make the team, but he's been making a lot of splash plays, and he even, as a wide receiver, got a couple rushing attempts. And he's been in the special teams return discussion. Tell me you don't want this guy returning kickoffs and punts. Ray McLeod the third.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How do you not get fired up about that guy? I mean, his name, it's the wind. It's the wind, it's the sun. It's all fast things. It's all so fast. Like you can't how could anyone catch this guy?
It's impossible.
Right? That's
I
how I
didn't
figure it.
envision him with like the Dion bandana under the helmet. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like so excited about this guy. I want to hear announcers talk about him all the time. Ray McLeod the third. Here's hoping you make the team, buddy. Ryan Switzer, I just don't want you on the team anymore. I'm sorry. Can we
That's a
just
good
swap him out? Even if he's the same quality player, I like saying his name better.
one. I've got one who his name alone is not incredibly special, but I feel like it just embodies a defensive tackle, a fat guy in the middle of the line to plug things up. Isaiah Buggs. Like,
Yes.
something about Isaiah Buggs just screams, like, I weigh 340 and I'm a hold down the middle of this D line.
And I'll tell you what, he has a little bit of shimmy to him. He can rush the passer. So he's going to be important this year, probably. Like, especially with this Wormley business, like
Hmm.
all these little injuries. Like, he played a little bit last year, and you might actually hear his name. Like, he could be a guy that is in the rotation. Um, I don't think they planned for that, but I think that with the Wormley stuff, it's
Yeah.
realistic that he could get in there. So if the defense is going to be as good as it can be, those rotational guys are going to have to hold their weight, carry some water.
Yeah.
I like it. Good choice, Isaiah
Thanks.
Buggs.
All right.
I
You
think
got.
everybody knows now what to expect out of this season.
Yeah.
We'll give previews. We'll do that. But I mean, these are our teams.
Yeah. We'll do some season predictions. Hopefully, we can find some time to get on here and then figure out what the season's going to look like for timing episodes, previews, and recaps, and things like that. Um, we got to find some time to fit in a Browns draft recap.
We'll do that next week for
That's
sure.
important, so we'll
We'll
squeeze
do
that
a
in next week. And
definitely.
yeah, thanks for
I love
bearing
it.
with us in between the 4-day hiatus to finish that Ravens recap.
Yeah, mad respect for those of you that stayed with me on that video for this whole 3 days. I didn't expect that level of dedication. I've always known we have incredible listeners,
Yeah,
um, but thank you. We love you guys for sure.
that's why our fans are the best on the internet.
Word.
See you guys next time.